Join us on the Poetic Odyssey, a celebration of voices, cultures, and the power of words. I'm Amanda Eke. Welcome to The Poet Speaks, where every syllable ignites inspiration.
Year in Zimbabwe.
What stories are on these tracks?
This idea of the Bronx, now, boogie down Bronx, that's what people say, right?
Don't become someone's subway story.
Medicate me with a lick and the like. I am not afraid to love you.
All of us have a story.
Magnifying glass because you can't see otherwise.
No one wanted to listen.
Yeah.
So I think that's what made me a writer.
In writing, the writing just comes.
You ready? Amazing poetry awaits.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Poet Speaks podcast. Now, our next guest is a dynamic, professional, spoken word artist who performs powerful pieces of poetry with an urgent intent to highlight the need for social change. He's also the writer, producer, and director of several spoken word musical stage plays, which center on love and the unpredictability of relationships. As founder and CEO of the entertainment and outreach organization Creative Love Network, he believes that poetry, music, and the arts can both entertain and positively impact lives. Everyone, welcome to the Poet Speaks podcast. Larry Love. Larry, how are you?
I am good today. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good myself.
Great.
Now, I feel like there's no way that you couldn't be good with a name like Larry Love, right?
That's what they say.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
I want to get straight into it. How did you get the pen name Larry Love? I think everyone's going to just be curious. How did you get the pen name Larry Love? Where'd that come from?
Okay, I'm going to give you two different versions, if that's all right. First, we have the Hollywood version, okay? And that's where I would like to say that I took the name Malcolm X and noticed that X was replacing the last name. So instead of Larry and my given name, I put love there to represent my love for my people and for my art and the passion that I have for poetry. That's the Hollywood version. Now, the actual version is back some time ago, there was a song by the name of Larry Love, and they used to play on the radio, and my brother tagged me with that name, and my friends picked up on it, and I've been Larry Love ever since. And just to keep it 100, of course, as a teenager, once you get a couple of young ladies to say, "Hi, Larry Love," of course, you're not going to ever change that name. So it stuck with me, and that's where it came from. So those are the two versions.
All right, Mr. Love. There we go. All right. Well, speaking of childhood memories, I mean, tell us a little bit about where did you grow up? How did your childhood affect the writing and the process to become a poet as you are today? And tell us a bit. Did poetry find you in childhood, or did it find you elsewhere in life?
Okay, I grew up in sunny Southern California, born and raised in South Central Los Angeles.
Nice.
I was born a couple of months after the Watch Revolt, if you know anything about that. So I like to tell people that I was born breathing the air of revolution. My parents were both revolutionaries, involved in the Black Power movement. So always around us was reminders of how important we are as individuals and as a people. Black is beautiful. Always have pride in who you are and where you come from, surrounded by heroes and kings and queens of African heritage. So those things were around me and instilled in me. So of course that bled into my writing and the way that I see the world. As far as poetry finding me, I would say I was more of a writer than a poet at an early age. And later in life, I developed a love for spoken word. But I've always written from a very young and early age.
Wow. So kind of taking that back, that is amazing. So you were born right before the riots or during the riots in Los Angeles?
Right after the riot. So 2 months after the
My
revolt.
goodness.
Right.
So tell us a bit of any anecdotes you have. I mean, that is such a prolific time in history, and history does repeat itself. We see those same, and what the future holds, some of those same movements, those same problems. A lot of our communities all over, we're still facing those same issues now. I mean, do you remember that time period growing up in LA, South Central? During that time, your parents were, like you said, they were revolutionaries themselves. What was that like? I think a lot of people don't even realize how intense those riots were, intense South, Los Angeles was during that time. Tell us a bit about what growing up in that was like.
It definitely was a unique experience for sure. The fallout from that we're still feeling today. And of course, history repeats itself. I was here also for the 92 riots in Los Angeles after the Rodney King incident. So I got to really live it through that particular one. The first one, I was very, very young, but still, like I said, being immersed and growing up in that environment and with my parents, family, and friends of the family being involved in that movement, it influenced me a lot. So it was a period of change, of transformation, empowerment. So you would see a lot of demonstrations. You would see people standing up more for themselves as opposed to what we used to see in films. I mean, my father's generation was one that wasn't really about the turning the other cheek and couldn't understand why the water hose being turned on individuals and the dogs being released didn't inspire them to physically fight back. Of course, we understand that things were different at that time, and you can't really equate one to the other.
Sure.
But the climate in which I grew up was more forward. I mean, they would say more what they felt and just really be more, I would say, aggressive in pursuing liberty, justice, freedom. So it was definitely a different time. It was a time where Blacks were coming into their own. So caught up in the music of that time, which I feel was a golden era of music. It had messages, it had meaning. I fell in love with R&B of that time, and that still resonates with my writing and the way that I create today.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's so interesting because it's now, so I grew up in Sacramento, California. Now I live on the East Coast in New York. It's interesting comparing the two. People, hip hop originated here in the Bronx. You talk about the messages in the music, but we know obviously hip hop transversed from the Bronx all the way to Cali, right? And a lot of those messages were so prevalent in the music in California, telling the struggles of people in Compton, right? We have so many different forms. I'm curious, it's interesting. I feel like I can only compare now when I'm in New York, people, they're very proud of being from the city, Harlem, the different boroughs, right? The Bronx. And I did the same thing with California, more specifically LA. People are very proud to be native born bred Los Angelonians, Los Angeles people, right? Because that's their stomping grounds. I'm curious for you. I mean, what is the change you've seen in LA from then versus now? Is there a difference you've seen greatly in the community? Albeit not just writing and writing and poetry, but also just in the grand scheme of things. How has LA changed?
Yeah, I've actually seen quite a few transformations. One being demographically, of course, going from a block that was predominantly African American to it being not so much right now. So I'm seeing a lot of that. Gentrification is big in LA right now. So a lot of historical sites and landmarks you're seeing undergo a change and a transformation. As far as growing up in it, when you're immersed in it, you just adapt and make way for the change. You try to hold on to old values and old stories and old history as well, because that's very, very important. And we consistently fight with that. A good brother of mine and his organization, of which I'm also a part of, has worked to turn Crenshaw Boulevard, which you may have heard of, to turn a portion of that into Malcolm X Boulevard. So that's been an ongoing fight, and it's been pretty successful. So we should be seeing that come about pretty soon. And yes, it's been a lot of changes, and I've seen quite a bit growing up in LA, but I wouldn't trade it in for anything in the world. Like you said, we are proud Los Angelinos here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's kind of circle back a little bit to your writing. I mean, tell us a bit. That's such a colorful platform to come from so much history, right? Through your parents, through the city that you're living in. Tell us how that then developed you as a writer, and kind of take us through when that kind of professional, now making those moves towards becoming a professional poet. Obviously working with different aspects of spoken word from the stage, plays. Tell us how that transition happened for you, where you thought, hey, I can actually do this as a job, as a profession.
Okay, well, the writing started early. Like any of us, we look for validation, particularly from our parents first. They're our first heroes. So fortunately, I was allowed to use my imagination. That was never stifled. So I always liked to write, and getting that positive feedback and hearing people say, "Oh, you're a great writer," that instilled in me a desire to want to improve in it. Never set out to do anything as far as poetry. In fact, I was thinking poetry, yeah, who would want to do that? So I was involved in hip hop earlier on during the golden years of hip hop. Did a lot of that, worked on a project called We're All in the Same Gang, which is a West Coast version of an anti-gang project. So I was involved with that project along with some of the other legends on the West Coast as far as hip hop goes. Later, it transformed into spoken word poetry. A friend of mine drug me into an open mic, and bam, I fell in love there. I could say what I needed to say without having to worry about being constrained by the measures of a beat or having to have a beat behind me. I can just go ahead and do what I needed to do. So that opened up a whole new realm for me. And as far as doing it professionally, I've always had a belief that you should be compensated for your art, for your talents and your abilities. And so I set out to find ways that you could monetize that. And in turn, starting my company, the Creative Love Network, I've extended that to other poets in the community, teaching them and providing platforms for them to also showcase their work and be compensated for it. So that's kind of the progression of me as a writer and going into poetry.
Absolutely, absolutely. What's been, let's say, even what was your inspiration back then? You kind of hit on a little bit. What was your inspiration for writing back then versus now at the stage you're at now? What are the two differences in inspiration? Or do you still feel inspired by the same mysteries and, curiosities in your life?
Absolutely. The fire runs through both back then and now. That hasn't changed. The passion for writing and communicating, getting a message out. I enjoy evoking emotion from individuals, being able to have someone on the verge of shedding a tear or ready to jump up and protest or really feeling what I'm writing. And the gift of spoken word poetry, performance poetry, has allowed me to really merge both of those worlds where I can write and also deliver it. And I have a gift for delivering the words that I write in a way that impacts people, that really makes it powerful. So it was a great thing to find spoken word in that mic. And then just from there, taking it to different levels and different stages to the professional realm where I can incorporate that into things like campaigns for corporate America, sending out messages with various companies and organizations, or on the lesser level when I'm in the street in the community, just getting things across to students and things like that. Poetry is a powerful form of communication, and if used correctly, it can absolutely impact and change lives.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely seems as if you've taken your work as a poet as an act of service, right? I kind of want to draw back. You said something really interesting there. You talked about the gang. You created that album attempting to get people the gun violence off the street. Remind me the name of that album that you had mentioned with some West Coast rappers as well.
Okay, the project and the album itself was called "We're All in the Same Gang," and it
Gotcha.
was joint work between Warner Brothers Records back then and a good brother who was one of the founding members of the Crips, brother named Michael Conception. So he put that whole concept together, got the artists together, and I was brought in to assist with writing and being a part of that project.
Well, I mean, that sounds beyond phenomenal. I mean, I think so much of gang culture, especially in rap, I think is completely romanticized. I think not many people really know the history of Crips and Bloods, et cetera, Compton, South Central, whatever may have you.
Right.
For you, I mean, when you look back on that work that you did, I mean, do you look at that now like that was so important to do, and even now, even more important today? A lot of young folks still need to hear that. A lot of old folks still need to hear that message of peace, right, within our community, street life.
Absolutely. And to that effect, I'm in the schools multiple times a week. I'm a mentor for young Black men, high school and middle school age. So I go in and I take that message in along with my brothers who are also a part of the organization. The program is called See a Man, Be a Man. So the idea is to show them what a real man looks like and to show them different outlets and different pathways outside of the gang, drugs, and the typical things that we are shown as on by media, is to dispel those rumors and those stereotypes. So absolutely important. And I'm constantly doing that work as well. And it's also about providing them alternatives. And poetry is one. If I find a young man or even a young lady who's interested in writing or doing some sort of poetry, or even if it's something outside of the arts, it's up to us to give them that guidance, show them how they could do it, open their eyes and their minds to other alternatives. So yes, it is still relevant today. And I'm not sure how long you were in New York, but there was a record called Self-Destruction. That was an East Coast version of that same thing. In fact, that came out first. And then We're All in the Same Game was a reaction, not a reaction, but a way for us to also do that same type of project and spread that message on the West Coast. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll definitely check out for that. No, yeah, it's such a message that is just still so needed today. You still see that lifestyle is still prevalent with a lot of folks in our community, especially a lot of young people. So shouts to y'all for still holding that work to the fire and putting that out there. Now, I do want to talk about kind of shifting gears here a bit. So I found it fascinating, you've kind of lived a lot of different lives as a poet, with the rap, spoken word. Now you also have a mixture of musical stage and poetry, right? You've directed
correct.
several spoken word musical stage play which center on love and the unpredictability of relationships. Tell us, how did you fall into this new schema, honestly, of Larry Love, this new interpretation of yourself, so many iterations of who you are in your art?
Right,
Tell us how you
right.
fell into stage plays and musical stage plays.
Okay, being in the creative community, you find a lot of individuals with varying skill levels and talents.
Mm,
So I would find myself, I've always been an observer. So I would sit and watch and just marvel at some of the talent that people around me had. So I had an idea of like, wow, it would be good to bring all of this talent together outside of just a typical open mic where you come up and perform and sit down. So
yeah.
how can we put together some sort of production that's on a bigger scale than just this and provide a platform for those particular artists? So again, to me, music and poetry are very much intertwined. I look at music as a form of instrumental poetry
Mm,
and poetry as a form of lyrical music. So it all goes together. The key is to be able to fuse that in a way that the audience understands that they're receiving both, but they don't see any interruption, right? It's just a smooth process. And then taking these puzzle pieces and putting them together and making everyone in that play feel like they're a star in their own right. So there's no supporting actors. Everyone is a star in my plays.
mm,
So writing, and I've always had the ability to come up with scripts that are realistic, no matter who I'm writing for. It really brings out the character. So doing the work to write it, getting people together, having the ability to manage people, because we're talking about multiple people that'll be acting, multiple people that'll be doing poetry, singers and musicians, all of this going on at one time, and having the foresight to see how all that would fit. So
mm.
that's how that came about. And then after doing the first one, the success of that just opened up the floodgates. And now, it's something that's a staple in what I do and what our company does.
Yeah, tell us a bit. I mean, how does a production like that, like you said, no one is supporting, everyone's there, everyone's the main character. How do you even begin to contemplate the scale financially, but also production wise? And where do you all kind of hold your plays?
Okay, well, one thing I've learned a long time ago that it's hard to do anything by yourself, at least to
Yeah.
the level of excellence that you expect. So it's about having a team. And I
Mm,
have a phenomenal team behind me. My business partner, first and foremost, my queen, Miss Diane. And then we have Miss Andrea Lee, who is a driving force and making sure the company's name is ringing bells out there constantly and making things happen. Our newest addition, Anthony the Boogeyman Rucker. He's one of the most phenomenal poets to ever touch a microphone.
Mm.
So in combination with that, along with the behind the scenes people that I have, we have a number of professionals that are not into poetry per se, but they are movers and shakers and can make things happen as far as what goes on behind the scenes. So a team is very, very important. You have to have that in order to really push anything forward on the level that you want to do it. From there, it just takes foresight. And I have a uncanny ability to manage people per se, to make people feel connected and important in all aspects, and to find their greatest gifts. And that's what you want to pull out and highlight that part. And when you put them in those positions to succeed, and then you place all those parts side by side in a cohesive way, and that's where the writer comes in, because you have to be able to write it in a way that it makes sense and it flows. That's a little more difficult for most people, but I enjoy that. I'm a chess player at heart, so I like making those moves and making sure everything works out the right way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big undertaking, and I am exhausted usually by the end of the production, but it's a very rewarding feeling once you have this vision in your head and then you see it play out in real life before you. As far as the venues, we've played at various venues throughout the LA area. And that changes based on our needs. Sometimes we need more lighting, bigger stages, smaller stages. So just depending on what we need. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about what one of those plays look like. Like I said, it plays center on love and unpredictability of relationships. Tell us kind of how does that what's the inspiration look like for that, and what does that play out on stage? How's that look? What's one of the name? Maybe you could give us one of the names of one of the plays that y'all have done.
Okay, one is a series called To Love or To Leave. And so in that case, we take a couple or a couple of different couples and put them on stage, and they're acting out the dynamics of their relationship.
Wow.
So one of them that we wrote was an issue with alcoholism. So the husband, I played that role, Michael, in that particular play, had a problem with alcohol and also a little bit of domestic abuse in there. So we always try to tap into real life situations and make people think and deal with real situations. So that was the issue going on. So throughout that play, we had that transpire, showed how he fell into that, how he tried to dig himself out of it, and how his wife or his partner reacted to that and the dynamics of that relationship. So by the end of the show, we involve the audience. We give everyone a black rose and a red rose. And we ask them to vote. Based on what you've seen, what do you think should happen? Should she stay with him? If that's the case, everyone raise the red rose. If she should leave him, raise the black rose. And we do that, and they go crazy in the audience, yelling why they should stay or go. And it's a way to keep the audience involved and also have them have an interest. So they determine the outcome of the show. So you can think about that in terms of later in life. I remember that play that Creative Love and Larry Love did about this same situation. And I remember how I felt when I saw that. And I was one that raised the black rose that said she should leave him. So I'm in that situation. Do I follow that same advice? So it's something that continues on. And then we bring back different characters in that same play and let them determine whether they should stay together or go based on their dynamics in their relationship. So it's really interactive.
No, that's amazing. Wow. What is the audience response? I'm sure y'all get people come up to you all the time talking about like, yeah, I had my rose there. What's been the kind of feedback that you've gotten? That's such an interactive, engaging experience to be a part of.
Oh, we get the whole scale. Oh, I hated you in that role. I hated you. That's a good sign. That means it was played correctly and that the writing was on point. So we get that all along. And even the characters to this day, some of the poets will walk out and people will call them the name of that character instead of their regular name. Oh, you were Firecracker in that, or you were Michael in that play. So the response is real good. And I always question whether they're ready for another episode. It's always overwhelmingly, yes, I'm invested. I need to see what happens with the other couple now. So the response is always very good. And again, intertwining music along with that. So you may be acting, doing a piece of a poetry performance, and then all of a sudden a song breaks out. But it's all woven together to make it cohesive.
That's a hell of a monologue then. No, that sounds amazing. And tell us when can people go see those? How often do y'all put on those performances and stage plays?
We try to do something quarterly.
Got
So
you.
every
Okay.
quarter we do something. Right now we're doing a series called Kings and Queens of Poetry and Music. So we have two huge thrones on stage, and we represent the queens and the kings of poetry, have them come up on stage and show why they deserve to wear the crown of king or queen poet. So we do that in conjunction with honoring the elders in the poetry community. So every time we do that, we choose a king and queen poet who's laid footprints in this game of poetry and done incredible things in the community. So we make sure to give the flowers to those who have paved the way for us while also introducing these new and upcoming poets that are deserving of a stage as well. So that's the series we're doing now. We've been doing that for the last year now.
Wow.
Took a quick hiatus as we're now getting our poets on college campuses. We just finished a 3-day conference where we are an agency representing poets and getting them on college campuses all across the country and putting them in spotlights and allowing them to get monetary rewards that they deserve. So that's been very exciting, and looking forward to doing a lot of that in the coming years as well.
That's really what's up. That's definitely such, I'm sure for you, feeling like every bit full circle moment, you know, you're now giving back to those and giving them that opportunity to be independent in their art. So that's such a shout to all y'all. Shout to y'all. That's amazing what y'all are doing. So tell us a bit about, now you've already mentioned a bit, but tell us a little bit more about Creative Love Network. So this acts as an agency as well for poets as well. Tell us a bit about the whole DNA behind Creative Love Network.
Okay, for that, the idea came about again, seeing all the talent that was out in the community and trying to figure out how to provide a bigger platform for them to demonstrate their art. So the name is a play on my name, Larry Love, Creative Love Network, and it really demonstrates what we're about, the love that we have for creating, and then providing that network for everyone to work together and to also have an outlet. It's two parts to the company. The first part is the entertainment part. So that's providing the platform, the plays, the stages, the events, promotion. So we put on big events throughout the LA area. The other side is the outreach side, because we always want to be about community and about people. So that side of it requires that all of our poets, or most of our poets and people in the organization, are also certified to teach some form of life mastery. So we have people that can do life coaching, anger management, parenting, um, various things. We have a theme of self-love. So we have a book entitled The Power to Change the Way You Love Yourself. We incorporate that in our programs and plays. So it's about the creative side and the upliftment of our people and people in general. So those are the two aspects of the company. So we're constantly doing things that are creative forms of therapy, so to speak. So teaching you how to better love yourself, teaching you how to forgive yourself for past things that you may or may not have had any control over, how to push through trauma, deal with anxiety, things like that. We focus on that in the classroom while at the same time entertaining you. So it's again based on our belief that words have the power, whether they're spoken, sang, written, or heard, to impact lives and change people for the better.
Absolutely. I mean, what's your, if you could just pick a dream out from the sky, I mean, where do you see that? Where do you see the org going? What is your kind of dream for the org eventually going in the next couple years?
The long-term plan and goal is to really touch more people, because I believe our mission is a solid one and one that is necessary. So getting to a point where we can touch more people across the country, across the world. So to that effect, we're taking steps to do more multimedia things. We want to tap into television, cable outlets, different factions across the country, different chapters maybe of the organization that can put on these type of events and these type of workshops, get into the school system. So it's really just expanding the work that we're doing here and taking that global. That is the goal.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, that's beyond amazing. The Creative Love Network, everyone, go check them out for sure. All right, Larry. Now tell me, was there a pivotal moment in your life when you knew you were a writer? If there is any story you remember from maybe childhood, adulthood, where it clicked with you, could you name any memory where, hey, I know I am a writer now?
Okay, if we're going to go back to early days, it was sixth grade graduation when I was allowed to write the graduation speech and perform it. So that I had reservations, like, how can I do this? How are they going to respond? But I, got courageous and did it. And the response, when people started clapping and applauding, that told me, okay, they like my words and they like my delivery. So on that day, I think a poet was born in that auditorium in 6th grade. And then, of course, later as we progress, I get into school and college, and professors are telling me you really need to change your major. You should be doing something in writing, and getting that feedback constantly told me that, okay, this is a gift that I have and I should try to really do something positive with it.
That's what's up. That's what's up. 6th grade, everyone, in the auditorium. So push your kids to go speak at an auditorium as young as you can get them. That's what's up. So thank you for sharing that. All right. And Larry, our last question for you on the Poet Speaks podcast. All right, Larry Love, why do you need to get your words out?
Because as I said earlier, I truly believe that words have the power to change people, change the world. So I believe my words speak to freedom, they speak to liberation, they speak to progression. My words are like the tip of a knife, a sharp tip of a knife that's kind of peeling back the layers of this self-doubt that our people have been wrapped in for so many decades and years. So peeling that back and helping people to really understand that we are great. We are valuable. We deserve every blessing that comes our way. And so I have to continue to speak, because who am I to hold that in when I have a gift and ability to reach people? So it's my duty and my job to make sure my words are heard.
1000%. All right, y'all heard him. All right, thank you so much, Larry. And before we wrap up, tell us what's next for you in 2025 and beyond, and tell us where can folks come find out more about your amazing work. Drop any social media or websites that you have.
2024. We're almost at the end of it, though, right? Right now, we're focused again on getting those poets out to these college campuses. So that's a big emphasis of ours. And we had a lot of success at this conference, and a lot of universities reached out to us. So we'll be organizing that and sending units of poets all across the country in the coming year. On a personal level, I'm working on a spoken word album right now. So that's something I'm very excited about for 2025. The project's title is Roses and Revolution. So it allows me to tap into both my revolutionary side and my love for Black love. So combining those two things, and again, Roses and Revolution. So look out for that coming. And the Creative Love Network has a lot of things on tap. We're looking to start a cable show pretty soon. We are also a book publishing organization. So we have several books that are being worked on right now that we'll be bringing to fruition in the next year or so. And just getting out there and touching people, teaching them about loving themselves, and spreading our talents and our appreciation for this art that we call poetry.
There we go. All right. Thanks so much, Larry. Did you drop your social? I might have missed that. Or do you have a website?
I have not dropped it, and my team would be so mad at me because I always forget to do that.
All right, no worries.
Poet Larry Love on all platforms. The company is Creative Love Network. So Poet Larry Love and Creative Love Network on all platforms. Tap in with us, the website, creativelovenetwork.com. Check with us, see what we're doing, follow us, and a lot of big things planned.
All right, sounds good. No worries. Everyone, we'll put all of Larry's information in the description box and the details down below. All right, everyone. Larry Love, thanks so much for joining us on the Poet Speaks podcast today.
Shout out to you, Queen.
All right, thank you so much. And everyone, go ahead, check out all of Larry's amazing work, and check out the Poet Speaks podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. All right, bye, everyone.
Peace.